he was like the shoes.
Yeah.
Wearing the red shoes. I'm just trying to bring the nuns into 21st century. He was like the shoes.
Yeah.
Wearing the red shoes.
This is the Uprising Revival channel. Welcome to today's show. I can't even begin to emphasize how unbelievable this clip is that I'm about to show you. Now, I was doing this based on the fact of seeing that Whoopi Goldberg of The View actually was capable and able to go to the Vatican to meet the Pope, which people should automatically question how these people are meeting with one another, people not realizing that they're all connected to one another. They all have a job in this order, so to speak. And Whoopi Goldberg, of course, you might remember in the past, I've covered Whoopi openly on television wearing the Freemasonic sweater with the Prince Hall on it, which of course is for the people of color, their version of Freemasonry. Because again, while they keep us all divided on things like skin color and gender, etc., these people are united in their front for Lucifer, and they do have black denominations, and their job is to influence black people out there, right? This is Jesse Jackson and all these people for to ignite hate towards white people. Then the white people do the same thing. So they have all of us divided on these ridiculous things that they would never be divided over, yet they keep us constantly at each other's throats so that we're never at their throats. So Whoopi Goldberg's been on TV before doing that. Whoopi Goldberg has obviously talked about and shown us a lot of her all-seeing eye symbolism over the years. Nobody knows what Whoopi's famous for because apparently Whoopi's a comedian, couldn't be less funny. But while I was going through all of this stuff and I wanted to show you the clips of Whoopi because what's going on here is the lukewarming of the church, I couldn't even believe my own ears when I heard Whoopi Goldberg with the Pope referencing red shoes. That's right, red shoes. For those of you that don't know what the symbolism of the red shoes is, the red shoes represent sacrifice. Trying to say it to get around the algorithm, okay? In other words, it references the little ones out there, the youngins who have been sacrificed by these people. And they use red shoes because the flesh of these young people who were unfortunately sacrificed are used in the making of these red shoes. And you'll always see the popes with their red shoes, and you'll see a lot of celebrities promoting their red shoes, whether they're saying they're red stilettos, etc. It's another symbol that they use right in front of our faces. Listen to this. This is so unbelievable. The movie Sister Act is from decades ago. No, it really, I mean, you know, it's somewhat of a box office bomb. I mean, it's not like we're talking about some type of really famous film. So somehow the Pope has seen Sister Act, which is what we're supposed to believe. Whoopi Goldberg is allowed into the Vatican to go see the Pope. Whoopi Goldberg, of course, everything that's opposite of what Christians are supposed to believe, but they want to have Whoopi rubbing shoulders with the Pope so that, you know, they can lukewarm the church even more. And I'll get into that later in the video, but listen to the Pope talking about the red shoes and laughing about the red shoes. It's unbelievable the nerve these people have and how they constantly flaunt this right in front of us.
And I went to see Pope Francis.
Yes.
And that was kind of interesting.
That's amazing. That's so amazing.
Like, he was quite amazing. He is exactly what I hoped he would be, which is a pope for all people regardless of religion. And I wanted to thank him for all of my gay friends and for all of my divorced friends, because he basically has said, listen, God loves you no matter what, come back to the church. I appreciated that. And I just, you know, I thought, okay, I'm going to walk into this building and I'm going to burst into flames.
Pleasure to meet you.
And glad to meet you. And my family. I wanted to say thank you for everything.
That's very important.
Not as important as you.
You have something to bring to the Holy Father? It's very interesting, the show of the
Yes. Yes. You know, we're trying to help bring the sisters into the 21st century.
As much of a sense of humor as
he
it
is funny.
And he knew Sister Act. I was obsessed with that.
And he was like the shoes.
Yeah.
Wearing the red shoes. I'm just trying to bring the nuns into 21st century. He was like the shoes.
Yeah.
Wearing the red shoes. I'm just trying to bring the nuns into 21st century.
So no big deal, you know, just the red shoes. We're supposed to see that passingly. Whoopi makes sure she points out, or he points out the red shoes on the show. Oh, he just loved about the red shoes. Had to make sure that everybody out there knew it. Now, I don't think anybody has picked up on this interview or seen it because, I mean, who really cares with all this stuff going on? The reason I was covering this video, which I'll get into in more detail, of course, is the lukewarming of the church and how they use these women on The View who all present themselves as Catholics. They're all Jesuits. They're all agents, of course. And what they're trying to do is influence their stupid audience's behavior as Christians. They're trying to get them to accept all these perversions, accept all these things that the church should not accept. But, of course, in the terms of the church, the worldly church, of course they're going to accept all these things because these people don't know right from wrong. They don't know how to interpret the Bible. And then they listen to these people who are trying to tell them that, oh, love, Jesus is love. They try to, like I always say, people point out to me, they try to take verses, okay, that talk about love and, you know, mercy, etc., and then try to overshadow all of God's laws by just throwing those verses at you. So here's some of the clips from Whoopi in the past, Whoopi talking about how children, you know, she's been criticizing anyone who follows the Bible and also saying things like she doesn't understand people who follow the Bible, how they can actually be against things like affirming care for kids, right? So she wants everyone to Baphomet themselves, or as I like to say, Bobbitize themselves. And of course goes on to say that, you know, we're not interpreting the Bible, right? She's interpreting the Bible, right? Everybody in the dumbed down audience applauds. And then continues to go on and on and on about interpretation of this, interpretation of that. And, well, you can listen for yourself and see the agendas behind this.
God made me smart enough to know that if there are alternatives out there that can work for me, I will investigate them. But I also know God said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I will not make that decision for anybody. I don't ever think that I can make any decision for you and your family that you are not smart enough to make for yourself. This is a party that says we believe in parents' rights. Mm-hmm. You're telling me that as a parent, I'm not smart enough to decide if my child and I need to have gender affirming. Our doctors are not involved. What is going? So I can't decide what my kid reads. I can't decide for my child what my child says is going on. Yep. You're telling me your beliefs, and they keep saying it, and I keep saying, what Bible are you reading? Yeah. Because God was really clear. Very clear. And this Pope gets a lot of help from people because he is saying things that seem to freak people out.
He's pretty progressive for a Pope.
Well, he's very progressive. He's a human being, as it turns out, which is what I really liked. And he is doing his best to be a human for everybody, you know, because he knows that we're all flawed. He's flawed. I'm flawed. You're flawed. But he's like, listen, we can bring the best we can, bring the best of us. So, you know, I don't know that it's going to jump me back into church. Whoopi. But listen. You know, but what it did was it gave me good reason to not abandon.
Yes. Yeah.
It gave me reason that there's, you know.
Let's go to our...
So not only do you have Whoopi meeting with the Pope and nobody asking questions as to how Whoopi Goldberg, this progressive person who, of course, all these people who are progressive, it's funny they use the word they try to say progress. They're really just destroying humanity, destroying the moral compass and moral structure. And of course, this does all tie back in to Bagelville, of course, working with the Vatican. They work hand in hand with one another. And nobody out there goes, hey, why would he be meeting someone like this? Well, because he's love, right? Because the Pope is deceiving people with love. And Pope is telling everybody that we need to accept all of these things that they're trying to push down these kids' throats. It's really just sickening that people don't see through it. But they don't. They don't. And somehow people think that he's a moral authority for God here on earth, that he's speaking. I mean, that's one of the great, it's not even a deception. I mean, it's just flat out stupidity that God did not appoint, the Pope. God did not appoint any of the popes. Okay, these aren't prophets. These are people who are selected and put in these positions just like the politicians. Now, the only way you're going to get put in the position of the Pope is to be probably the most wicked person walking the earth and doing the most disturbing things. And if you can't look at the Pope and see that this guy's involved with stuff, you could see, they say your eyes is the window to your soul. Well, if you look in the eyes of some of these people, you know they've been involved in some disturbing, sick stuff. And of course the Pope has. The popes with their red shoes, don't forget. They're most known for their red shoes, not just the some of these other creeps that we constantly see, these businessmen, and they say that the executives in Hollywood all wear their red shoes out when they go to these types of meetings, et cetera, so they could flaunt what they've done. And of course, we know what Hollywood's connection is to all this stuff involving sacrifice. So we take a look at that. We take a look at the Pope, who's openly talking about acceptance, tolerance, right? Some of the other Agenda 2030 agendas being pushed, right? The Pope has been talking about how we shouldn't eat meat anymore. He's been pushing the climate agenda, right? So they're warming down the church as much as they possibly can. Now, some of the other amazing stuff is when you listen to some of these psychopaths on The View, they all are out there. They are probably some of the most vile people to ever live. I mean, just listening to them, it's amazing that they have an audience that listens to them. They are so narcissistic and sick, but they all betray themselves somehow. They're on there. They're constantly pushing the Democrat, drums, etc. And this is the agenda behind it, is that they pretend to be Christian. So you have Christians who then become Democrats. And again, you can vote, what we've turned this into with voting is just that like political affiliations are based on like, it's not about a candidate anymore. It's just it's like a party. It's a group. It's a team that everybody's on. So if you go by those types of things, then no Christian should actually be a Democrat, right? Because everything that they want to do is everything against God's word, right? Because this is bagel communism at work. That's what that party is now. Okay, that they've infiltrated, they've taken over. Not that they haven't been in the past communists, but they're really pushing, this pretty hard. So anybody who's Christian who follows the Democrats, who is a Democrat, and then follows these people and what they say, they're completely lukewarm. They're completely clueless. And that's what their job is. So they come on here and they talk about all this progressive stuff. Listen to this woman. And they talk about, no, I was in the church and I left the church because of some of the things with the church, because they try to tie in all of this philia stuff going on. They love to tie it in with the church. Of course, this is part of the falling away as well, because many people have left the church because of what individuals within the church have done. And people like me who are Christian, I get pointed at all the time too by these people who cover my channels or have in the past, making fun of me. And they're like, he's talking about all this stuff, but it comes out of Christianity, because they look at the church and they think that we're affiliated with the Jesuits. I mean, it's just complete. This is what they've done. They've trapped all of us inside of all of these things that they've built around Christianity, right? The church, the Pope, all of the conspiracies inside the church they do with kids, which of course makes it out into the public, but you never hear any of this stuff come out about the bagels and what they do openly, including the stuff that they do where they circumcise, those rituals that they do. Somebody posted something over on the website, Uprising Revival. If you're over there, check out the post. It'll make you throw up, but it's unbelievable some of the stuff they do openly. Where it's so inhumane, where they suck the blood out, which again ties into that libel thing I've talked about. That's over on the website, Uprising Revival. Check it out in the forum. And again, lots of great stuff being shared over there. But anyway, take a look at some of this stuff from some of these other clowns pretending to be Christian on The View.
I'm a faithful Catholic. I'm a devout Catholic, but I've been disgruntled. I left the church for a few years behind the pedophile scandals. I am against their stance on gay marriage. And so I've had a lot of difficulties, but this Pope always felt different to me. He always felt different to me, and in some respects brought me back to the church.
Sorry, Sonny, I didn't mean to jump you. What I was going to say, what I liked most about that, though, is we know what a Pope is going to make you feel like. We all talked about it and touched you to see if it would rub off. But that was a great reminder of what's special in you as an individual, because when he said what you're doing is important, the joy and the laughter you bring people, he brought it right back to the individual, which a lot of faith in church is about, like what the gifts born into each of us and what we bring. So that was like a full circle, beautiful moment to witness.
So that's what they do on The View, right? They portray themselves. Oh, I'm a Catholic. I'm a devout. I've always been a devout Catholic. Oh, you always have been a devout Catholic. That's great. What does that have to do with anything? Well, what it has to do with is hurting. Right? They're trying to relate to the audience. The audience hears them with all these progressive views, and they're like, but they're Christian. Oh, they follow Jesus. These people do not follow Jesus. They follow Satan. They serve their master, Satan. Whoopi, Goldberg, all of them. You could just look at them. What does God say? Their tree is known by its fruits. Okay? Well, take a look at these things on The View. Their fruits stink. Okay? But this is a herding mechanism where all of them go out there, pretend themselves to be Christians, like, oh, I kind of fell away from the church because the church is not pro enough LGBT. Oh, the church is not pro enough this. It's not pro enough that. Oh, the church is thankfully the Pope is starting to lean more towards my body, my choice. So I'm going to go back to, it's just a brainwashing mechanism. That's all that it is. And that's what their purpose is. And that's what they serve. So That's why Whoopi Goldberg would meet with the Pope. And this is how we get to a point where we have these Christians, even ones who constantly yell at me, and I'm not acting like I'm above anybody else, that I'm more, my doctrine is better than anybody. I'm not one of those types of people, okay? But when you see Christians just come over here and spew the same sentences, they're under mind control. When they constantly use things like, any type of Bible verse that pretty much you can use to push love and push love your neighbor as yourself. All these verses that they don't interpret properly, they just throw at every single thing that's out there so that they could have reason to accept and tolerate all of this perverse crap that they're normalizing. So Whoopi Goldberg, for example, talking about, what about these kids and it's love your neighbor as yourself and all these interpretations of scripture that you need to look at it this way. So God's talking about this verse about loving your neighbor as yourself, etc. So you should be accepting of your neighbor who's trying to castrate their kid. No, that's not the way that it works. But having these influencers do this to the mass audience out there is how you not only just lukewarm the church, this is how you pretty much lead people directly to hell. So that's what their purpose is. And then, of course, the most important thing being is that they all have the same narrative. Oh, I was a Catholic. I grew up a Jesuit. A Catholic. I grew up a Catholic. I grew up a Catholic. And I had a falling away. But hearing the Pope talk about all these progressive things makes me want to go back. Makes me want to go back to the church. This is part of the deception. And remember, with everything going on in Bagelville, this will be part of the herding mechanism, going back to the church, right? Christians are going to be deceived more than anybody. And we're seeing it already beginning. So really what I wanted to cover was that, but can anybody get past the fact that they're openly discussing the red shoes, having the Pope discuss the red shoes, and Whoopi discuss it? You go all the way to the Vatican, and you've been trying, you wanted to go to the Vatican to meet the Pope so you could talk about some of these progressive things, and you bring a copy of Sister Act. You're like, oh yeah, I'm going to meet the Pope. Let me bring some stuff from my movies for the Pope, and of course I'll point out the red shoes. So why do you think that she brought Sister Act? Why do you think? Oh, because of the nun theme to it? Oh, okay. And he just deliberately points out the red shoes right in front of everybody, knowing this would be on national TV. I mean, they get away with this stuff, and they love flaunting it. People are like, why would they even bring attention to it? Well, I'll tell you this. When you understand psychopaths and narcissists, think of this. How often have we been told the stereotype of like these serial killers and how they love, like they would, they're getting away with this and then they want to call the police to be like, oh, I'm still out there because they want attention. They love what they've done, etc. These people are that tenfold. They love the fact that they can get away with this openly. So they love showing this because they know that when people like us cover these topics, they could either flag the topics or they could just spin this and put out their de facto truth fact-checking crap, or they're like, oh, did you hear this conspiracy about the red shoes? And they could just keep deflecting off of it so that people don't believe it. That's what they do. So they love the fact that they could do this out in the open. And now they're even more protected than they've ever been because they have a literal army of hive-minded zombies out there. So that's the view for you. Don't forget the fact that Whoopi Goldberg openly wearing her Freemasonic sweatshirt right on national TV, but it's still a conspiracy, right? Yeah, it's still a conspiracy. The same people who, hail Lucifer and worship Lucifer, right? I've read stuff from Albert Pike's teachings. I mean, everybody knows that they do, right? That's one of the reasons they tell you when you join, you have to believe in a God, not the God, because they're just going to groom you into believing Lucifer's God. Then they're going to use the Bible and invert it and talk about, how God does say Lucifer's the God of this world. And then that's how they brainwash them all into believing, not just believing that Lucifer's the God of the world, because he is, but believing that Lucifer overcomes God, that Lucifer is king, that they're one with Lucifer. This is all the crap that they do. So Whoopi Goldberg, of course, can flaunt that on TV, but it's a conspiracy. Whoopi Goldberg can flaunt the red shoes, but that's a conspiracy, right? Whoopi Goldberg can pretend and play the role of being a Catholic and then tell us all about, if the church just starts accepting things, because she's read the Bible, folks, and we're not interpreting her. She doesn't know where in the Bible it condemns kids getting castrated. Condemns it everywhere. It should just condemn it in the basic common sense world. We don't even need the Bible to tell us right or wrong from that standpoint. It's just psychotic is what it is. So I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. Share this video if you can. God bless all of you and your families.